So the show here, we learned that Kevin Durant, that's like KD, has requested a trade. Oh, my God, Kevin Durant requested a trade. Yeah, he wants to no longer play for the Nets. Now, that comes, if you believe in numbers lining up and some kind of serendipity, if you will, the move comes exactly 3 years to the day that Kevin Durant had agreed to leave the Golden State Warriors while injured to head to the Big Apple in a whirlwind free agency tour while he was hopping on one leg. And now, after 3 years, 2 seasons played, one where he was injured, Kevin Durant wants a one-way ticket on the express train out of the borough of Brooklyn. And we are told that the Nets are playing ball, that Sean Marks, the fine New Zealand fellow, is working with Kevin Durant and his business guy to find a suitable trade for both parties. Now, we are told by Woj and others that the top 2 teams on KD's wish list, I know you're very concerned about Kevin Durant getting his wish granted to him. The top 2 teams are the Suns and the Miami Heat. So those are the 2 destinations. So let us discuss the question. What are the odds that Kevin Durant ends up being traded before the start of next NBA season? So the MALLER Sportsbook odds, which are very rarely wrong, very rarely are the MALLER Sportsbook odds wrong. I'm setting the line on this at minus 5,000, which implies a 98% chance that we got a deal.
I'd buy that for $1.
Just a 2% possibility that Kevin Durant ends up reversing course and says, on second thought, I'd like to stay. I like the pizza. So my thoughts on this, you've got paper shredder, fool's gold, and chowder. And we will tie all of these things together, and we are going to make burgers and hot dogs on the barbecue, just like you're probably going to eat and make this weekend. So, Kevin Durant asking for a trade is a blank. It is a scathing indictment. It is an admission by Kevin Durant that he botched things. Does anyone in the room disagree with that? No one disagrees with that. Kevin Durant's fingerprints are all over this. Kevin Durant had the NBA world by the palm of his hand. He had handpicked the person he wanted to do a confab with, Kyrie Irving. Durant was given final cut privilege by the Nets. All the moves that have been made the last 3 years had the blessing of Kevin Durant. DeAndre Jordan, Durant wanted him. Check. James Harden, done. Ben Simmons, because you got tired of James Harden. Check, 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 check. All those role players that we don't talk about much, all because of Durant giving the rubber stamp. They were all approved by the Slim Reaper. And this is what Kevin Durant has done to the Nets. He's given them the bird, is what he's done. The experiment turned out to be an abject failure. You know that. I know that. Every man, woman, and child knows that. Brooklyn paid Durant to rehab his busted Achilles. They played a total of 3 playoff series with Kevin Durant on the roster, and they lost 2 of them. They lost 2 of them. 2 of the 3. So all that talk about title or bust, well, I think we know the answer. It's like the end of Donkey Kong. It did not go well. Now, rather than roll up the sleeves and put some work in, show some perseverance, because you created this mess, Kevin Durant is taking the easy path out of Dodge. In this chapter of the Greek tragedy, KD is going to Office Depot to buy a paper shredder. And what he's trying to do now on his way out of Brooklyn, he's trying to shred all of the documents, get rid of all the files stored in the computer hard drive, all of this in an effort to conceal the basketball malpractice that he took part of with the Nets in roster building. Now, part B of this, our friends over at DraftKings have updated the odds. You can bet on everything these days, and they have some odds over on DraftKings on where Kevin Durant's going to end up. And the betting favorite, the early favorite on that is the team in Arizona. The Suns are the early favorite. Now, people who claim to be connected, they say, well, here's the trade. Phoenix will deal a combination of DeAndre Ayton, who they already want to get rid of, draft picks, and other complementary players to get Kevin Durant in the desert. So you're going to buy or sell the Suns as the betting favorite for Kevin Durant. So I'm going to sell this one. And I'll tell you what, DeAndre Ayton and some leftovers and a few low percentage chance of winning lottery tickets, that's not enough. That's not enough for Kevin Durant. Now, Durant's he's been injured a lot, and he's also getting past his prime, but you'd still rather have him than DeAndre Ayton and some leftovers. So the Nets, if they were to do that trade as it is currently described, DeAndre Ayton, some complimentary players, and some draft picks, that would be completely idiotic. All right, they would be the morons. All right, you're looking for the moron, they're the morons. Get the dunce cap out if that's what it is. Now, I am not a big Devin Booker supporter. Regardless of my opinion of Devin Booker as a basketball player, if you're the Nets, he's got to be included for Brooklyn to make that happen. Durant would be making also another misstep going to Arizona. Why? The Suns are frauds. They were exposed as frauds in the playoffs this past year. Actually, the last 2 years they've been exposed as frauds. It's a fool's gold situation in the NBA. You're painting for gold. You think you found gold, and you turn out, well, it's actually not gold. It's fake. And the reason the Suns are fraudulent is because they beat a bunch of damaged teams, right? One after another. Teams that were missing either their first or their second best player the last couple of years in the playoffs. Phoenix played two teams that were healthy with their top players on the court the last 2 years. Those two teams were the Milwaukee Bucks and the Dallas Mavericks. And the Suns lost both of those series. Okay, they lost both of them. And Chris Paul, do you really want to join forces with CP Old Man 3? Chris Paul was slowing down in the playoffs, very choppy, a horrific Game 7. The entire team took a ride on the vomit comet. And if you go to the Suns, you are going not only to the Western Conference, but you're going to a division with the great Kawhi Leonard, PG-13, and John Wall. The pick to clip right there in the NBA. And then not only do you have the People's Team, you have the Warriors with the Splash Brothers and all that. So you'll be haunted by them some more. Now, between the two teams that have been prominently mentioned, Miami will be the better of the two, although not my choice. South Beach, Eastern Conference. It's not perfect. The reason it's not perfect, Miami, is because Jimmy Butler is an alpha dog, and it is more likely than not that if Durant and Butler were mano a mano in Florida, that KD would not handle that well. We know Durant does not like to be talked to in a stern manner. He does not enjoy that. And some would say to be held accountable. Jimmy Buckets is going to be like Draymond Green. Remember Draymond Green got into it with Durant, but Draymond Green's not even that good. Like, he's just along for the ride. He's a guy that's benefited from being in the right place at the right time. If Draymond Green had been in the NBA with a team that's a middling team, nobody would know who he is. He'd have a podcast, but nobody would know about it. But the point of this is Jimmy Buckets was somebody who's actually good. And so if he starts yelling at Durant, it's a different dynamic there. He's not a coattails rider like Draymond Green. All right, last word here. So you are the consultant. Which team do you advise Kevin Durant to join? You now have the power. There's a lot of sleepless nights in NBA free agency. That's why we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it would not be the Suns. It would not be the Heat. I'm the consultant. I'm the advisor. I give free advice. I've opened the MALLER think tank for professional athletes. So the team that is ready-made for Kevin Durant the Shamrocks, the Shamrock Shakes, right? You got to now go out there, have a dish of clam chowder and a slice of Boston cream pie with plastered Paul and blind Scott. You can hang out together. And that's assuming that winning is ultimately the goal here for Kevin Durant and not just to go to a warmer location. Miami is a great place to live year-round, certainly in the NBA when they play so many games in January and February and March when the weather is usually pretty nasty. So in Miami, you're in good shape, and in Phoenix, you're in good shape. I think it does get cold in Arizona that time of the year, but not East Coast, Northeast cold, not upper Midwest cold, not that kind of cold. Anyway, so I'm going Celtics on this as the preferred destination. If you're looking to win, you can play with Jason Tatum, who vanished a bit in the NBA Finals, but a young star on the rise. You've got a passionate fan base, which might actually turn Durant off, the Boston fan, because he does not like to be criticized. And a team that is on the cusp of being good year after year after year, at least for the next 3 or 4 years in the Celtics. And more importantly, Boston has a fair trade offer in Jaylen Brown and draft picks that they can send back to Brooklyn. So it all lines up perfectly to go play for the Celtics, which means Durant will probably do the wrong thing based on his decision-making and bad decision-making. Durant will end up going to the Suns. Chris Paul's going to play like he's 85 years old. They'll keep Devin Booker. He'll go out with a different Kardashian, and he'll turn into Russell Westbrook. And that's how that's going to go. All right, it is the Ben Maller Show. You want to talk about any of this, you can join us right now. We will open up the phone